As a linguist and fantasy creator, a common thing I find in many fantasy media is that the fictional languages don't really feel real. They might sound exotic, they might look impressive when written down, but after a few names or bits of dialogue, something feels artificial. And why is that? It's not because they lack vocabulary, clearly. It's not because they lack grammar, although that may also be true for some fictional languages out there. It's mostly because they lack history. Hi, my name is Tomi Snaro, and I'm a PhD student in linguistics at the University of Tokyo. I'm also a creator of a fictional or fantasy universe called Firaxnare. Today I'd like to explain how to create a fantasy language that feels a bit more real, without getting too technical. When most people invent a fantasy language, they tend to decide on a vibe. Maybe something harsh and guttural, maybe something flowing and melodic. And then they create words that fit that sound. And this approach is adequate in some cases, and if that serves your purpose, then there's nothing wrong with that. But as you can imagine, real languages are not designed for vibe. Rather, they are shaped by time and historical changes. If you want a realistic fictional language for your fantasy world, and there is a number of reasons why you would want that, you need to take the dimension of time into account when creating the language. So let's take English, for example. Why is night spelled with a K and a GH? Because centuries ago, it was pronounced with both. In Old English, this word was pronounced knicht, as it is written, although it was spelled like so. Over time, the pronunciation shifted and this word came to be pronounced as night in modern English. However, the spelling stayed more or less the same since Middle English, as speakers of modern English know, and the K and GH are silent. This way, history remained visible. It tells us that modern English, or any language for that matter, did not spring out of nowhere. In my opinion, the biggest mistake many fantasy languages make is being internally static. I mean, I don't really want to call it a mistake, but it does kind of undermine the believability of it. In other words, in order to make a better fantasy language, in my opinion, one should reflect passage of time in the language, because languages inevitably change. The way we pronounce certain words change, we borrow elements from other languages. Languages come in contact with each other, and that gives rise to more new languages. Although I know for most authors it would be unrealistic to design a full linguistic history of all language families in the fictional world, there are ways to think about some internal history of the languages. So imagine a language 1000 years ago had this word, kalati. Now imagine, through the course of linguistic evolution, vowels were raised by subsequent high vowels. So high vowels refer to vowels like I or U, and that gives us keleti instead of kalati. And then aspirated stops at the beginning of the word, in this case k, those soften, and that gives us keleti. And then final vowels get deleted, kelet, and then finally the final consonants weaken, and this gives us keleth. So after centuries of historical change, you get keleth instead of kalati. So this is some of the basic ways of applying historical change to a language. So having said all that, why is all this necessary in the first place? Let's look at fictional languages of J.R.R. Tolkien, for example. One reason Tolkien's languages feel real is not just because they sound beautiful. It's because they have history. Elvish languages like Quenya and Sindarin did not appear out of nowhere. It evolved from earlier forms with systematic sound change similar to the ones that I've shown before. That historical layering gives way to the languages, and by extension the whole setting. Even when you do not consciously analyze it, you feel it. especially in Tolkien's case, in the names of the characters or place names like Galadriel, Elrond, Celebrimbor, Imladris, etc. Now, I'd like to talk about the concrete methodology of creating a believable fictional language without getting too technical. My number one advice in this video is this: if you are designing a fantasy language, do not start with a dictionary. Instead, start with a parent language, like an ancestor language, so to speak. And unless your focus of word building is specifically on your languages, it does not need to be too complex. It just has to give a general idea of what the language you actually want to create looked like in the past. So, I suggest you start by creating a simple sound inventory. This refers to the list of sounds available in the language. When doing this, I strongly recommend you use the International Phonetic Alphabet chart, which tries to show all possible sounds that humans can use in language. I will link that in the description. And then, when you're done with selecting the sound you want to use in your language, you can start making a handful of basic roots. Roots are, in essence, basic building blocks of a language, which are even smaller than words. They tend to have basic meaning, and combined with other parts, we call these morphemes or other roots to form bigger words. When doing that, I also suggest determining a few basic phonotactic rules. Phonotactics largely means the rules by which the sounds in the language are arranged. So think about how syllables are formed and which sounds can combine with another. And then apply aforementioned changes. For example, for rule 1, you can have something like P becomes F between vowels. And for rule 2, final T disappears. And for rule 3, you can have something like unstressed vowels reduced to a neutral vowel, which is like a weakened form of a vowel. The second thing I want to stress most in this video is this: apply the changes consistently. There are exceptions, but these sound changes often happen regularly, meaning that you can't apply a change to one applicable word and randomly not apply to another. If you really want to avoid applying a certain rule to a specific word, maybe you could make it a loan word from another language which was borrowed after the change happened. But for the most part, apply them regularly, and now you have some simulated history behind the language. Another cool thing you could do is to create different dialects. What qualify as different languages as opposed to just different dialects in the same language is famously a matter of debate among linguists, but the point is, real languages split into different variants. So let's go back to the example of the word Keleth. Let's suppose this language was spoken in a country that is spread out vertically and that there were northern and southern dialects. In the northern dialect, let's say they started pronouncing th, the sound written with th, as f. As opposed to this, the speakers of southern dialect kept the old pronunciation as th. Conversely, let's say the southern dialect made a different innovation where the initial k becomes a ky sound, as if there is a little y after the k. So now you have Keleth in the northern dialect and Kieleth in the southern dialect. This gives instant realism. And again, if there are dialect-specific rules that you came up with, it is advisable to apply them consistently. There are many other ways you can make your fantasy language feel realistic and lived in. For example, when two or more languages come into contact, sooner or later, borrowing occurs. And the type of words that get borrowed depends on what kind of contact that is. Are the two groups of speakers of your languages at war? Are they trading? Do they have a common religion? For example, if your empire conquers a neighboring culture, its language should absorb loanwords. In the context of close contact with other languages, it would in fact be more unlikely for a language to not borrow from them. When designing loanwords, you could theoretically bypass the sound change that occur in your language internally, but it would be likely for the loanwords to undergo at least some processes to join the lexicon of your language. Let's take a look at another example, this time from Welsh and Latin. Welsh, or technically its ancestor Proto-Brittonic, borrowed a lot from Latin during the Roman Britain period, and here are some examples. On the one hand, we have Latin sabellum, scola, and scribere, and on the other we have Welsh ystafell, ysgol, and ysgrifennu. Can you spot what they have in common? It is the added y at the beginning. Welsh didn't allow the sequence of st or sk at the beginning of the word, which Latin did, so it had to add an extra vowel at the beginning when the borrowing happened. Again, if you'd like to have these extra rules for loanwords, consistency is key. When we say a fantasy world feels real, what we often mean is it feels older than the story we are being told. Language is one of the most powerful ways to create that illusion of depth, not necessarily by adding more words, but by adding the temporal dimension to the story. If you're interested in designing languages that feel historically real, this channel will explore sound changes, language families, writing systems, and how language shapes culture. Because believable fantasy does not begin with law, it begins with simulated history. Thank you for watching.